Great. Good afternoon, everybody. On the loudspeaker now. To those who are in the room and those that are online, thank you so much for waiting for the opportunity of this afternoon when we're having a Q&A with our state's Chief Entrepreneur, Jim Whalley. For those in the room, we've got a whole range of people who are in the eNVision community here and have started up businesses here in Tonsley, both here in this building but also out into the broader Tonsley community. We are going to do a Q&A session. We've also asked Jim to just give a quick snapshot of some things that are happening at a state level and the vision from the Chief Entrepreneur's Office. So I might start with that and then we'll open up some questions. And
well, I'll just start by saying I'm not answering any questions about nuclear energy, all right, if anyone's read the advertiser today. Right, so normally my voice would carry, it wouldn't do this, but since we are online, I think I need the microphone. Let me just give you a little bit of a snapshot of what we've been trying to do over the last couple of years with the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur. We have several members of the Office. If we could just put up a few hands for those in the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur. It's not back. So please come and harass not only me, but other members of the team while we're wandering. We've had a strategy for the last couple of years called FIX. Exchange for Entrepreneurs, and that strategy has been very much around 4 pillars: to inspire, equip, enable and celebrate. Is get people, many like you, to think seriously about a career or a business in either a research activity, something in particular about, is making sure that you have the skill to a business. Write a business plan, market analysis, what a balance it is, what a profit and loss is, all those things you might need to do to turn a great passion into a business. Really allows us to push startups, businesses and entrepreneurship. So we want to make sure it does not end up as the flogging horse for different sides of politics. I'm pleased to say that Premier Stephen Marshall and Pete Malinauskas, all right, I'll get a bit louder, Pete Malinauskas are very, very supportive. We're looking at the economic landscape as well. Make sure that there are investors out there that, you know, if you've got an idea and a concept in a business that might need some capital, and I'm seeing some people who are down in Mount Gambier who are in that situation as well, that they are, that there's investors out there that have got the knowledge, got the expertise, not only invest in your own organisations and companies, but also to help you grow those companies. So it's not what we call some money, but that comes in with some capital, comes in with some resources, but also comes in with some expertise to help you take your idea, your businesses, to hopefully the next level. We're looking at trying to change the narrative too around entrepreneurship. Many of us, or many South Australians, many Australians have a concept of business that sometimes is associated with people with ponytails and Ferraris. Obviously, but there are businesses out there who are doing really good stuff. And not only are they creating economic growth and jobs, but they are contributing back to the community. So in my own business, for example, we do a lot of work with veterans, with defence space, a lot of other companies out there who are trying to look at impact, social entrepreneurship and sustainability in the things they're doing, employing people that might come from a diverse background, employing people that might come from a challenged background, but who are more than capable of doing those jobs, and actually giving back to the community so that I guess we get as well. And we've got a couple of examples. People here, people who have come from a business background and are doing work in. as well. And finally, making sure that we have the facilities, so the technical part of it. It's places like Tonsley, it's places like Whalley, places like Mawson Lakes, places like ICC up at Whalley, NBI down at Mount Gambier, making sure that we have the facilities where you can all come together, you can talk, you can share your stories, you can learn from each other, and do things. It's making sure that we have access to high-speed data, so if you're in the digital domain, that you can get product and software and those sorts of things to customers and clients very quickly. It's making sure that if you have got a product that is hardware, that we've got the logistic trials and the ability to get it out to market. Last thing also, finally, is making sure that we have government that is supporting you. And that's in all sorts of ways, whether it's, supporting organised or supporting facilities like NBI and Tonsley, but also supporting the US clients. So the program, for example, go to Gov, where entrepreneurs now have the ability to go to government and say, I want you to be my customer. The government can go to entrepreneurs and say, we have an issue, give us your solution, give us your ideas, and we'll bring out that process by which go into government. It's probably enough for the moment, I guess.
Sure, thanks, Jim. And I'm sorry for those online if you didn't catch all of that. I'm having some surprisingly technical difficulties, but I'm hoping that you can hear a bit better now as well. Thank you so much, Jim. It's actually really great to have you here. It's great to have you in the district. I know we have a room of people who are at various stages of their business advancement, at various stages and from a variety of different industry areas as well. We thought this was a great opportunity. We've got some people online as well that are streaming in from interstate, as well as our regional areas, both in Mount Gambier and Barossa, Yorkshire and Whalley area. And I think there's probably a few of our signs of visas that haven't quite made it into country yet, but are so close with the support of your office as well. I know there's a number of signs of visa participants here in the room as well. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to actually open it up for questions. This is an opportunity where you have the State's Chief Entrepreneur and the department. We've also got representatives from the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur as well here to answer questions too. Just throwing them into that. But do we have them on from the floor who would like to ask Jim or anyone for
Always me.
That's all right. Jerry caused me some grief.
And I will repeat the question. So if you ask the question, I'll then repeat so people online can hear.
Thanks. Firstly, I work with a lot of people from the community, and I want to say thank you for supporting these amazing people coming into the country.
Right.
And especially thank you for the financial support earlier this year. I know that was the first investment for a lot of them.
Thank you for bringing us money.
Thanks, brilliant. Yeah, it's in a general direction. And I work now with TAB Systems, who are a advanced manufacturing company working out of Tonsley. And I also work in a philanthropic space. And I posed this question to Aaron actually earlier, about the possibility of the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur finding a way to funding from a philanthropic side for staff being thrown around.
Well, the only, sorry, do you want to
I'll just do a quick, do the quick version. Claudine has asked about how government can act as a bit of an impetus between the philanthropic community investment body and those new start companies. Particularly, we're looking at those who are here on international visas or their businesses to Adelaide, and how the department might be able to act as a broker in that. And Jim, I'm going to swap microphones with you because then you'll get.
Right, that might be worse than Mark, and I'm staring at you because Mark over here is the controller of the cash in the, well, he's not really, but the is a major part of what we call the RCSF, Research, Commercialisation and Startup Fund. For a couple of streams of that has a co-investment model. My question is going to be to Mark, if we had philanthropic investment or co-investment, does that make the grade for what we're trying to do with RCSF?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the answer to your question is yes. So there is government funds available. If someone, if a philanthropist comes in, says, I'm going to put some cash into this social, for example, venture, that government is able, through the RCSF and the co-investment, to help with matched funding. Is that fair?
Absolutely. It's a competitive program, so it's
Yeah.
subject to being competitive.
So I'll give you all the good news and say yes, it's all fine, and then Mark will deal with the competitive process.
Is that okay, right? Can we hear?
Yep.
No, it's okay. We can- we'll work it
I
out.
would bring light.
We've got to be-
It's fine. It's okay.
Okay, thank you for that as well. Turn that one completely off. Other questions from the floor? Or also from people online as well? Sure.
Government's really got 9 industries.
Yeah.
But there's also so much more to South Australia and those things. And perhaps in the community services sector and also certain enterprise sector. How's that dealing?
So the question is, looking at the government focus, the 9 particular areas, how do some of those broader industries like social enterprise, community service, etc., fit into that picture?
Yeah, certainly the brief within the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur is very much looking at the future industries, and you talk about them as defence, digital space, creative industries, ag tech, medtech, biotech, and energy. But we have got a strong emphasis, as I mentioned before, on things like sustainability, impact, and social entrepreneurship and social investment. And one of the board members of the Entrepreneurship Advisory Board, Maura Weir, is from that background and is pushing that hard. We are pushing those, I'm going to call them money-making ventures, that we hope will provide economic growth and jobs for the state. As part of that strategy, we want to embed those community-based ventures, that social entrepreneurship in those organisations to help assist the impact sector as well. There is discussion underway. I don't think I'm approaching the conference here. There is discussion underway about creating an SA impact fund. So we are working in that space as well, and I want to make that part of the fixed strategy. And it is, it is a part of the fixed strategy. So.
Thanks, Jim. We have a question from one of our online joiners as well. Is there an incentive for an early stage startup in voice AI from Melbourne to move to South Australia?
Might need to get into the specifics of it, but probably voice AI would fit pretty much into things like creative industries and AI. The digital part we're talking about specifically is AI, big data, cyber, those sorts of areas. So the first answer to the question is, I would say yes, there is probably a fit with what we're trying to achieve in South Australia. And I would say that if they want to move from Melbourne or from Victoria to South Australia and they're in that sector, there is support available, probably co-investment support, but we want to see, people backing their own businesses and getting their own investors as well. So the short answer is yes. Come across. I'm a Victorian, came here 25 years ago. I'm hoping to get permanent residence sometime in the next 2 or 3 years. And whoever this is, I'm sure if they wait 25 years, they'll get the same.
I don't want to make any comment about our size of visa holders. Don't be scared. We have lots of initiatives happening for you at the moment.
Worse for a Victorian.
That's true.
No.
We have a question from the room. Yes.
Yes, we have. We have defence studies. The question is, I love the initiative and the inspiration. How to keep it going, because a lot of us, especially which we come from the social enterprise community services, to get that match and the mentoring through to help evolve the idea. how do we do that? Can we get access to mentoring at each stage? Make sure we put up something quite commercial. And how we keep going as community to network those ideas. Unless you've got the connections and the networks, it's hard to do the connect. Here's a great way to get people in, great innovation, etc. So just looking for that path, because I don't know the path in this sector.
So the question revolves more on the social community entrepreneurship innovation, how to build some of those networks and get the support for growth for organisations in that real startup phase in South Australia.
Thanks, Jenny. We have shared backgrounds from the defence sector. So Jenny knows the answer to this question, I'm sure, but it's just trying to put me on the spot. Look, honestly, in the same way as all the other startups, it is get out there, it is get connected. One of the reasons we have facilities like this, like Whalley, like Mawson Lakes, is to get people in a room together and get those networks. One of the things that's really surprised me in South Australia, we've got a population of 1.7 million, of which 1.4 live in Adelaide, and we literally are a city state, and we're the state's 3 times the size of France. One of the things that surprised me when we first came in the job was how often I talked to someone and I said, "Oh, do you know about so-and-so who's down the road, who's a potential customer, collaborator, supplier?" And they said, "Oh, I don't know them." So I think we, as South Australians, sometimes like to stay in our groups and not venture out. Jenny and I come from the defence sector, and I know my first 10 years was I hung around people who were in the defence sector. Get out and talk to other people. And you will also be surprised. So for people not only in social enterprises but in small business enterprises, how enthusiastic people will be to come and help. And the example I'll provide of that was beginning of COVID. We thought a couple of years ago about starting up a mentoring program for startups. And there's lots of mentoring programs out there. There's professional ones we can pay for and all that sort of stuff. But during COVID, really gave us a lot of impetus. We just thought there's startups around the place, whether it was a lot more, whether it was down here, all over the state. We had the impetus to get things going. Very informal. And one of the things when we started talking about this, we talked to startups, and a lot of the startups would say, "Oh, that old bloke or old woman that did this or that, they won't want to deal with us. We're in a different space, and they're very experienced and all that sort of stuff." And the old bloke or the old girl who'd been a CEO of a major corporation, maybe retired 5 or 10 years ago, and had gone through a whole lot of ups and downs with businesses and done all that sort of stuff, said, "Oh no, those young people won't want to talk to me. I'm last generation," and all that sort of stuff. And what we found was they all really resonated with each other. When we put them together in a room and we matched them up, it was a really positive experience. The feedback I got from the generation of me and above who've gone through the ups and downs of business was like, it was really cool dealing with people in business that were young, excited, had great concepts and great ideas, and they felt invigorated by that. And for the people that we talked to that were business founders that are just new to the whole business game and the entrepreneurial game, that they really benefited from having a bit of a discussion, just talking through issues, talking through problems, and a process and a way of thinking from talking to these people that had a lot of experience. Because we all have problems; they all come in different guises, but there's a process to go and sort through it. Whether it's COVID, whether it's feast, famine, whatever it is, there are ways. And I would say that that is as applicable to a social enterprise as it is to a business enterprise. Get out, use your connections, link up. South Australia is relatively small. It's 1 or 2 degrees of separation. If you make an effort to get out and meet people, you will find there is a network out there that wants to support you. And more often than not, I have found when I ask for help, 95% of the time, people are more than happy to provide it. You've just got to get out and show and ask for the help.
Thanks, Jim. Another question for him. I was going to ask a question from someone that I met on Friday. I'm going to make a slightly different, adjusted question. I'll come to the question in the room as well. Startup really has got international attention and big name international investors wanting to put money in. But the investors have identified that they want to see the state where this business is based actually invest in that as well before they commit. Lots of barriers to get to that. What's sort of advice do you have for those that are actually looking for state when there is such international investment interest in an organisation but can't get the support at the state level?
We get in the old chicken and egg model. So most of the programs that are state-based are based on the assumption that the private sector is a better determinant of whether an investment's a good one or not. So a lot of the programs we have, whether it's RCSF or the South Australian Venture Capital Fund, we have a co-investment model where if you can find a private investor to come in and provide some dollars, the state will come in one or two or more of those guises. But we are, as government, I'm now a government employee here, although the highest paid one in the state, that we're relying on private investors to be the arbiters of what is a good investment because they are better at it. So that is a quandary. But if that company is a credible, forward-leaning company, I would hope they'll come in with the knowledge that the state will support financially if it can and if they understand the rules. But we are relying on those organisations, those commercial organisations, to be better arbiters of what is a good investment and what's practical.
Thanks, Jim. I've got another couple of questions in the room. Just stand here on the front.
My question is, I have a software business, I'm still in the micro business. Find at this point, it's very hard to get traction in government. Accelerating commercialisation.
Are you talking about as a customer or as a, in terms of government funding or as potentially getting into government?
Government funding.
The question is at the really start-up seed space of an organisation at that point of really wanting to get on board with government, get government on board with the idea.
Again, I will make the point we have chosen those sectors we talked about, the defence, digital space, creative industries, ag tech, biotech and renewables. They're almost got that memorised. If you're in those sectors, it is going to be easier. If you're not in those sectors, there may be a little less government support. The only point I would make to you though is if you are looking for government, we talked about this before, looking for government as a customer, we have now got this Go to Gov program. So if you've got something that you think government can buy, you haven't, okay, all right. Then I would say to you, you're probably going to have to rely on your own dollars, investors. What government will provide, I hope, is an environment in which you can thrive. Now, I started my own business in defence 20 years ago, and at that time, again, no government support. I was in a good environment, and South Australia was a good environment to be in defence. But I would say to you, what you're getting out of government is support for things like Tonsley, 4Lot14, for those incubators and those startups and that connectivity, and hopefully that infrastructure. It won't necessarily be easy if you've got something that isn't in those future industries areas, and I won't make promises we can't keep. It will be challenging if you're outside of those sectors. Maybe it hasn't helped too much, I'm sorry. But I tend to be a bit blunt, that's all.
Let's look at this side of the room first if you have any more questions on this side. We're coming to the end, but I'm going to take one more question down the front. I'm just looking at Sipping if you're...
Yeah, question about the matching fund. So, if fund is matched and investor is willing to put the money, why is there need for reevaluation by matching fund? So somebody is evaluated with some money. Why is it also reevaluated?
The question I think is where there is investment from a government investor, why is there a need to then justify to get that government fund investment?
The question is also about to get a valuation of the enterprise you're talking about after you've had some investment from someone else. So I might take that one offline. I don't believe we are doing valuations of business. People are applying with the co-investment model. So if you've got a private investor into your organisation, I don't believe as part of that process we're actually doing evaluation of the organisation.
What would the RCF from the SAV?
Yeah, okay. So the SAVCF, just to be clear, so for the Research, Commercialisation and Startup Fund, which is run out of our office and out of the Department of Innovation and Skills, we will not do evaluation. If you have a co-investor, you can apply for money up to the amount that's been put in by that investor. We don't go through a process of doing evaluation for you. If you go through the South Australian Venture Capital Fund, which will tend to be later stage, they are run like a venture capital fund. So you may have an investor in there that's valued the organisation at X million dollars. They will do their own due diligence, and they will say, well, we don't think it's worth X million dollars. We think it's worth Y million dollars. And for the money we put in, we are getting this percentage of your business. So it is a pure venture capital fund from that point of view.
Overall research.
Sure.
So reading
Yes. Yeah.
One of the challenges we have is interested in more use of staff.
Support.
How do we get support
Yeah.
for businesses? There's an opportunity there with the actually really difficult.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we, and this is probably particular to people who have served at the veteran community, how do we get businesses in South Australia to recognise that there's some benefit in providing, there's benefit to their organisation to provide benefits to veterans, and how do we get that message out there? And I think to, in part recognise the service people of the sacrifice people have made. I've got a bias view, obviously, 32 years in a uniform. I think it's an interesting one because the attitude to veterans in this country is very different to the attitude, for example, in the United States and in part the UK. And we saw this a couple of years ago actually, where Virgin said that they were going to provide premium boarding or priority boarding for veterans. Qantas said no, we're not, and then there was a whole debate about. Was that the right thing to do? And a lot of veterans were like, I don't want to make a big deal about the fact that I'm a veteran and all that sort of stuff. So, I think it's a really interesting one. In the United States, people very, very proudly wear their veterans badge. I think we are a little bit reticent in Australia. Having said all that, I would say of all the states in Australia, South Australia is probably the one that is most supportive of the veteran community. And most supportive of the military. And, you just need to look around state government and you will find a lot of people who want a uniform, who are working at senior levels of government. The person who comes to mind is Jim McDowell, who was ex-MBA assistant. Whilst he's not a veteran, he's been in the defence industry for a long time. You have people like Air Commodore Margot Forster, who is an Iraq veteran who's running a lot of stuff, did the bushfire recovery and a lot of the stuff in COVID now. We do have Veterans Affairs and, Minister for Veterans in the state as opposed to at the federal level. I would have thought if you're starting a business in that area, most businesses in South Australia are reasonably veteran aware compared to many other states. So I think it's just a case of get out there. There's a big defence industry, and if people want to be dealing with the defence industry and all the benefits of that comes with it, having people that have served, is of benefit. And I would have thought that's a pretty symbiotic relationship. Not sure I've answered the question, but if I got to be.
Thanks, Jim. Look, I realise we are a bit pressed for time and we really have had the spotlight under interrogation a little bit out the front here. So thank you so much, Jim. I will probably wrap up this time, but if you're happy to stay around, say 10 minutes, we have a couple of our friendly robotic arms ready to pour drinks. For those at home or watching online, maybe you might use your own arms to do that. But it has been an absolute pleasure hosting you here this afternoon. Please stick around and have a conversation. From those from the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur and DAS, thank you also for coming. We do have people here to talk about the Go to Gov. Paxton down the front, if you could pop your hand up as well.
And RCF, if you do want to know about RCF, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but we do have most people.
Yeah, we've got a couple of representatives to talk about. It's RSS.
And if you want to talk about what a bad job the Chief Entrepreneur is doing, go and talk to Judy.
But it has been a great opportunity. I had the pleasure of seeing the Entrepreneurship Advisory Board in Mount Gambier on Friday, and it's been fantastic being able to host you here today as well, to show you actually what that big picture of entrepreneurship looks like from our perspective, and it's fantastic for the range of people who have joined us in the room today, knowing the work that you are doing and the variety of different areas that you're in. It is fantastic to see it happen. I really do hope that we continue to be a really supportive community for you and a great network of those people in the various stages of their business involvement and supporting other businesses in their involvement as well. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Can I just say that it's probably more the reverse. It's us supporting you. I know there is sometimes, and there was early on, a little bit of a perception that OSACE and all the work we were doing was very much focused on Lot 14. It's not. It is statewide. We were down in Mount Gambier last Friday with Freddie visiting Mount Gambier High School, which is one of the 5 entrepreneurial high schools. My job and the job of the whole office is to support entrepreneurship across the state. I really want to see us having good relationships. I want to see all of you regularly visiting Lot 14. I want to see people at Lot 14 visiting down here. I want to see you, getting up to places like Mawson Lakes and others. We're all in this together. This is not one organiser or one facility over the other. It is statewide, and we're really trying to get out, and all of you have a contribution to make. And I think all of you will benefit from the networks both here and in other parts of the state. So I really, really implore you to get out and meet as many people as you can. You might find a customer, you might find a collaborator, you might find a supplier that can help your business thrive. Thanks.
Fantastic. Please join me. Please come and get a cool drink.
You get to go first. Give me the bad news. Tell me about your business.